Good morning. So a little different for this week, I am going to be videoing my PowerPoint on my computer. I'm doing that because I want to suggest that it's another option for your final exam, your second exam, which is a PowerPoint presentation. In the prompt, you'll see that I asked you to use TechSmith Relay, which is a program available at Dominguez Hills. However, if that's a little bit of a challenge, this might be another option. I'm making a video, right, recording my PowerPoint and my voice, and I'm hoping that you'll be able to see this and that this will be something that you'll be able to use for your exam should you want to. It's a little less professional, but I think it also serves its purpose as well. So here we go. Here is my lecture for this week. This week in our course, we're looking at the work of Delfina Cuero. This is her autobiography. It's also an account of her last years. And then, as you'll see at the end of the book, her ethnobotanic contributions. These are her lists of herbs and plants that she has known, has names for, has uses for, and used throughout her life as a Native woman born in Jamaica, as you'll see, and from the Kumeyaay tribe, right there on the border of what is now the U.S. and Mexico. A pivotal text, as you'll see me talk about again and again, because we have very little recording, in written recording, of course, of the life of the indigenous people of the land that we inhabit now. A lot of their traditions are oral, and we have access to those through the Native communities. However, this particular published account stands out. And we learned so much, not just about her life as a Native woman, her relationships, her family, but we also learn about the ceremonies, the relationships that she had with plant medicine too. I bring this into the conversation for this week because we're beginning, continuing that conversation about the word witch, its uses to name women in particular who are healers, and I would say like earth-rooted healers. And so Delfina Cuero, and this autobiography really stand out as an example of someone, I argue, would have been labeled a witch in all of its negative connotations. But as you read Cuero's story, you'll see that she is a woman, a Native woman, living her life and trying to establish her identity in this new world, trying to keep her relationships with ceremony and with plant medicine in this colonial world as well. From pages 40 through 46, I wanted to draw your attention in particular the ceremonies that she refers to in her texts. Maybe some that you're familiar with, maybe some that you're not, but also very powerful, very significant to take a look at those. What does it mean that those ceremonies were a part of their culture and now that they're lost? Of course, ceremonies, as you'll see in this week and next week too, are a big conversation. And I'm asking you to ask yourself, what are the ceremonies that you participate in on a regular basis? Another word for ceremonies, I might argue, is rituals. Rituals you participate in on a regular basis that maybe you're not aware of. Rituals like getting up in the morning and drinking a cup of coffee. Rituals like writing in a journal. Rituals like drinking a cup of tea before bed. Maybe ceremonies not just like weddings, but there's a bunch of non-traditional now commitment ceremonies. There are ceremonies around death. ceremonies around birth. These are the big ones, but the small ones, the ceremonies that we participate in, arguably the family dinner, the annual trip as if to the beach, to the mountains, etc. What are the ceremonies, particularly after reading Cuero, that come up for you in your life? I also wanted to draw your attention to the ethnobotanic contributions I've noted already on pages 84 through 98 in the text. Here she lists just so much of what she believes, you'll see through her account, is alive, is thriving, is in relationship with her as an indigenous woman, and how that plant medicine helps, heals, contributes to their community. Do take a really strong look at these lists of herbs, because you'll note in my questions for the week, let's take a walk, etc., I want you to comment on them. I want you to be able to have a sense of what they are. I'll be asking you a couple particular questions regarding them. So you'll see the question of the week, rituals. What rituals do you perform every day? Simple. Ritual, I know, is a strong word. Another word for ritual is routine. What do you routinely do every day? Simple things, bigger things. I think I am interested in those simple things that we we do not recognize as rituals. If you pray every day or if you meditate every day, I think that's obviously one that stands out. But what are the things that you do without knowing? Perhaps asking yourself for this week. Also, let's take a walk. I'm asking you again to look at the end of Cuero's work at her ethnobotanic contributions, and I'm wondering if you recognize any of the plants, herbs, any of those contributions that she gives us. Are you familiar? Have you seen them used in medicine? Have you used them on hikes? I'm sorry, have you seen them on hikes? You might have used them on hikes too. You reach down and smell the sage or the fennel. There's lots of wild fennel around. There are these lemonade berries, that you might have seen if you've ever gone hiking. Have you seen them in stores? Have you seen them in books that you've read? Or in teas that you've recently had the pleasure to drink? What, if anything, is familiar to you? Tell me about that. I'd like to hear it. For this week, you'll see that the audiovisuals include a conversation on herbs that were considered witchy herbs, like henbane. But also, there's a lot of other audiovisuals there for you to consider. Again, in this conversation about, when we think of the word witch, we have all this kind of mainstream ideas about what that looks like, what she looks like, what she is. And they play a lot with negative and positive connotations of the word witch. But it's very sensational. As opposed to the conversation we're having, maybe this counter-narrative, this lived reality of witches in our readings, in our everyday life. Then in the Ask Each Other discussion board question, I want you, again, looking at Delfina Cuero's work, I want you to share with each other the most significant part of Cuero's story for you. I say here in this PowerPoint that we have so little written of the native peoples. Her story is so important to know. She shares that there is a life in every plant and offers in this text some of their names and healing properties. What is the most significant part of Cuero's story for you? Cite a passage, share it with each other. And finally, make sure you take that quiz. Quick reminder that Last week I reviewed the exam 2, the PowerPoint presentation, and this week I just want to remind you that also due by 11:59 p.m. Friday, June 30th, the last day of spring intersession. Note that's a little different than the normal Sunday midnight time. This is Friday by 11:59 p.m. because that is the last day of spring intersession. You have the PowerPoint presentation due. You also have this final paper due. Similar guidelines to the first paper, similar amount of words, a little different. I'm asking you to look at Einreich in English and how they address the roles of witches, midwives, and nurses in societies, and discuss some of the oppression which had and has prevented these women from sharing their skills and knowledge. I'd like you to choose from among the women scholars included in week 6 of our course, and this will be, if you'll see in the syllabus schedule, Starhawk, Lorianne Zaldua, and Louisa Tisch. I want you to discuss how the words of at least 2 of these scholars reflect ideas expressed by Einreich in English. Think carefully through the contribution of these scholars, whether the word witch itself is employed or not. Do the works of Starhawk and Zaldua or Louisa Tisch suggest that women have or have not surmounted the oppression that Einreich in English discuss? We'll continue that conversation this week, allowing you to ask any questions should you have regarding this prompt. The prompt is here in this PowerPoint, but it's also in the syllabus for you to get a good sense of. Please feel free to reach out, particularly in the discussion board through Ask the Instructor. Remember, if you have the question, some other person might have it in the class, and I'd love to be able to share the answer with you all. And that is the end of the PowerPoint presentation lecture for today. I hope this gave you a good example of what you might be able to do for the final, and I look forward to seeing you online this week.